Hello again, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It is Monday review time, and as you can see, once again, I am joined by Rhys. Fresh
Hello.
from a night out. I
Just
say
about.
fresh in the loosest sense of the term. I'm sitting here on the back of a 4-0 hiding at football this morning. So we're not going to talk about that. Instead, we're going to talk about what was a very entertaining game at, and I'm going to call it Valley Parade because I don't like sponsored names for stadiums, as Neil Harris's Gills drew 2-2 with promotion chasing Bradford City on Saturday afternoon. Just said, Rhys, before we press record, really, really good watch. I have watched the whole game, obviously didn't travel up, can't watch it live like yourself, but was up early Sunday morning, so sat there and watched the game in its entirety and thought it was a really, really good watch first and foremost.
Yeah, it was a really entertaining game, and you know the season for us is over actually in that sense of the word. So I wonder if the fact that we could play with a sense of freedom to a certain extent probably fostered that kind of type of game, because Bradford had to play for something, and we were just being a nuisance. So it had the makings of a good game actually, but it was very exciting.
Yeah, it was. It was really, really good. I'd imagine as a neutral, it would have been great fun. I don't know where we've ended up on the ITV highlights because I've not watched it yet. But yeah, I said to Liam, the Bradford fan who was on the match preview show, hosts the lower league, look, go and check them out. And they do a brilliant 6:06 show on a Sunday evening. I said, I just thought that Bradford's need would be greater than ours. And I said 2-1 Bradford. So I was so glad that I was 30 seconds from being right, but ended up being very, very wrong. We'll do it as we always do. We'll go back to 2 p.m. Saturday afternoon. That's when the team news came out. There was one change. And given Neil Harris's comments at full time, it looks like it might be a semi-permanent change for the rest of the season. It's been confirmed that Shaw Williams has got a knee problem. Nothing serious, Neil said, but it will rule him out for the remaining couple of games. So in came Ethan Coleman in that solitary change. So the Gills in full was Glenn Morris in goal. That back four, again, Shea Alexander, Maxima, Connor Masterson and Robbie McKenzie. Coleman came in alongside Timothee Dieng, and it was George Lapsley just in front, Macca and Jeffries from the side, and Tom Nichols playing as, I don't want to say false nine, it's very, very Premier League, very Premier League. But again, it was us playing a different way, not having a focal point to hit in the traditional sense of the word. Couple of changes on the bench. David Tatonda was back. We've not heard anything about Lewis Page, but seems like he might have picked up another injury, which probably, for me, says we're not going to offer him a contract. Tristan Abrahams was back in because we could name Jake Turner on the bench, because Josh Chambers was our homegrown player, having been recalled from his spell at Worthing. So we had the full quota of 7. No real surprises, was there, with Willow's injury? There wasn't going to be loads of changes. I said on the preview show, I didn't know how we'd approach it. That was the thing. It was hard to do. But fair play to Neil. It looks like we're going to go as strong as possible for the final 3 games and get as many points as we can.
And why not? And I was thinking about this. I was reflecting, because you could take one line of a management and go, well, let's give everyone a play. Let's play a bit of freedom. But then to a certain extent, you could lose the integrity of the game, and potentially other teams are playing against have something to play for, or, you know, as a indirect approach, other teams are relying on our results. So I think actually the approach which I now prefer is that we actually go out of our strongest team possible. You know, we want to win games. It doesn't matter if we're not going to get relegated or in the playoffs. Actually, what's really important, if you get the next place above, you get a larger prize pool. It might be a negligible difference, but it's still something more. So that, you know, there's still something.
I'm not sure that actually applies in our division.
Does that not apply in our division?
I'm not sure it does.
I stand corrected.
I'm sure we've had this conversation. I'm not saying I'm 100% correct, but I'm sure someone brought this up a couple of weeks ago on Twitter, and someone replied and said, no, there's not.
Okay.
There isn't a difference. I mean, like you say, it'd be negligible at best at our level anyway.
But in fairness, my point still stands though. There's still something to play for, in the sense that we have to be competitive, and we want to finish strong, because we want to start next season as we ended last season. We want to have that continuity. So in sense of, like, you could kind of see this period of play now a bridging point to the start of next season.
Absolutely.
And this is why I think it's really, and I was really happy that we actually put out a really strong competitive side. And I was also really happy to see Coleman in the centre of the park. He's looking pretty tidy, actually.
Yeah, I've liked what I've seen in every appearance so far, and fingers crossed he gets a couple of starts in the final 2 and we see it a bit more. But yeah, and obviously I'd imagine after Tuesday night, there might have been more emphasis on us going as strong as possible, because there were a couple of murmurings regarding the last 10 minutes of our win against Leyton Orient. But at the same time, I can see it the other way. It's our prerogative to do what we want now.
Yeah, absolutely.
My biggest concern would be if you went, oh, let's play Jake Turner and have Tate Holton on the bench. If we recall Ika Orji from Chatham and put him on the bench, and we start Chambers and we start Joe Bodale, for instance, and then we go and take a hiding, what does that do for their confidence? So I think it makes sense. I want to talk about Josh Chambers at the end briefly regarding coming back. But yeah, it was good to see continuity, and we're still building momentum. We started off brilliantly as well. I thought we were absolutely spot on first half. And I know Neil said after the game, we're starting to see real signs of what a good side we are and what a good side we can continue to become now. Could have scored in the first minute, I think, wasn't it? I think there was a ball got played down the left, and Tom Nichols chased it down and managed to keep it in and wrestled it off the fullback. And I think then Timothee Dieng and Dom Jeffries got involved, and maybe Alex McDonald. It was all very quick. And I think it broke to Ethan Coleman, similar to Tuesday night. He picked up that position on the D and just held his run, and it got cut back to him. And I think there was a very good block that went over for a corner or wide for a corner. And it set the tone for certainly the first 15, 20 minutes. Bradford came into it for a period, but I thought we bossed the first half.
Well, the important thing, if you go to a place like Valley Parade, it's really important. If you want to take something from that ground, you're going to have to go with some intent from the get-go. You can't. I remember a game we played up at the Valley in Charlton a couple of years ago, where we scored in the first 30 seconds, ended up winning the game 3-2, and I can't remember who scored the goal. But I do. Was it Ollie Lee scored the goal?
The one we won 3-2 during the COVID season. Yeah,
that
long
was
ball.
it.
John Akindi flick on, and he ran onto it and bashed it in the bottom corner.
That's it.
That was like we had like a goal of the month competition that game, didn't we? That was the Conor Ogilvie volley.
That's it. That was that game. And when we went out of that attacking intent yesterday or on Saturday, it reminded me of the start of that Charlton game. We're away a bit. I know it was a COVID season, still a big stadium, a lot of pressure. And I just thought, oh wow, okay. And Bradford were probably stunned by that, and you could tell they were stunned by that as the game progressed later, because they did not, we didn't allow them to play the brand of football which obviously has given them success throughout the whole season.
well, yeah, because they're in the playoffs for a reason. So they've obviously played this way where the keeper drops it from goal kicks and they give it short into their 18-yard box. But that brought about the second chance, and I've put it as a half chance. Harry Lewis, the keeper, had a really poor touch. Gets there in front. He almost has to play like a centre half to slide tackle Lapsley. I think if Lapsley just gets there, at worst we get a penalty. At best, Lapsley just touches it round him and taps it into an empty net. So again, it was we were pressing high, we were pressing in packs, we were doing it at the right time, and it forced them to then go long, which meant that Maxima, Connor Masterson, Timothee Dieng all came into their own, because you'd fancy us 3-on-1 against Andy Cook to clear up that type of delivery towards our 18-yard box. I think I counted 4 corners in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
From the absolute get-go, and we just didn't let them out, like not even out of their 18-yard box, let alone into our half to cause us any problems.
And the good thing about that, the reason that you want to do that, particularly in front of a crowd as big as Bradford's, is you want to get their home crowd on the back of their own players. And you could hear that it was a relatively toxic atmosphere amongst the fan base of Valley Parade. That first half in particular, you could really feel it, and they were not happy that I don't think Bradford expected to turn us over. I think that would be that's not correct. But I imagine a lot of Bradford City fans expected them to be just as competitive, and for it to be a relatively even game, with them having a bit more of the advantage later on, which is kind of how it turned out in the end. But I think they were probably quite surprised how much on the front foot we were, and I think they reacted quite negatively. They were really struggling at the back for about 20 or 25 minutes of that first half, and we were really hammering the pressure, which obviously led to the goal, which hopefully we're going to move on to very shortly.
We are. They did eventually get a foothold in the game, and I think the first real big chance, came for Andy Cook from a Bradford point of view. And I think it was the lad, I've forgotten his name, it escapes me, Scott. 2 seconds.
Banks, is it?
Scott Banks, that was it. Left-footed, played on the right-hand side. It was very tricky, 2 good feet. Andy Cook does what, for me, the best number 9 in the division this season does.
Yeah.
Holds his run like Ethan Coleman did. Banks gets to the byline. We go sort of 6-yard line, which is defensively what you do naturally. Glenn Morris, I think, is beaten, but Maxima is alert and gets back on the line to block it. But again, that was a fleeting moment in terms of the Bantams being an attacking force in that period. And shortly after, we took the lead, and it's another horrendous error. Let's to be honest. This time it's Romain Critchlow, I think.
Yeah, it's Critchlow.
Ball gets played him on the halfway line. He has too many touches. But similar to Andy Cook's goal, I'm not saying it's as technically pleasing as the Andy Cook goal at the Priestfield when he robbed Maxima, but Tim Dieng still got plenty to do from the halfway line, and he drives, and I think it's only Tom Nichols that's actually going to stay with Dieng, and he's trying to get to the far post. I think the defender does all right. He slows Dieng down, But Dieng has a great touch out of his feet and drills it across Harry Lewis into the bottom corner. We deservedly led after about 12 minutes for the way we'd approached the first period of the game and the chances and the areas that we'd got into. I noticed he didn't celebrate because I think he had a couple of years there, which is by the by. Some choose to, some choose not to. I'd imagine he must have left on good terms. But yeah, I thought it was a really good goal. And it's not like he's had it on a plate and Critchlow's lost it on the edge of the 6-yard box. Dieng still had plenty to do to score that goal.
Absolutely, and it's yeah, Critchlow made a huge error in judgment with his touch, but pretty much that goal was created solely by Dieng. Like, he did that all himself. He depossessed, ran half a length of the pitch. And then I have to say, Critchlow, like you say, he does really well. And there was his flashback from about 3 or 4 years ago. We played Blackpool. I think Van Dane Oliver scored a similar goal where he was veered off to sort of the right-hand side of the penalty box and managed to flash a shot across the face of goal into the bottom left-hand corner. To be able to do that skill was really tough. You've got to have such a good connection. It's got to be almost as straight as an arrow. And it has to be kind of a snapshot. The keeper can't expect that because it's usually quite an easy save. And he's ticked all those boxes and it's gone in the bottom left-hand corner. For what it's worth, when he's making that attack and Critchlow's made that cover and run, I think, oh, it's over. The only thing he can do now maybe is find Nichols. And by the time I thought that, he's rifled it at the bottom left-hand corner. Great technique. And it's a fantastic goal. It really is. Because even though it seems, you could argue, oh, it's 1-on-1, all that kind of stuff. No, actually, he had a lot to do and he executed it perfectly.
Yeah, it's not like he's running through centre of the goal. He's got two options. He can go both sides of the keeper, or he can go round him, or he can sit him down. That's probably the only place he could go was right into that far corner. So yeah, kudos Timothee Dieng, kudos the pressing again, kudos Neil Harris for getting us set up to go and press really high.
Absolutely.
He nearly scored a couple of minutes later. Another error. That was literally the commentary for the first half. Was Bradford are trying to play it from the back. Bradford have messed it up, and I think it was a left-footed drive this time, wasn't it?
Yes.
That flashed just wide of Lewis's post. I'm not sure Lewis is getting there if it's inside the post. Yeah, just strange approach from Bradford because, like you said right at the top of the show, obviously playing this way has got them to where they are, which is into a promotion fight.
Yep.
But surely there becomes a point if you're doing it for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and you keep getting caught, then you just change that approach or you have a plan B. And this is something that's been levelled at us up until recent weeks, probably the last 3 games.
Yep.
When Ollie Hawkins come out the side for reasons out of control of Neil Harris. And we've almost stumbled upon a different way to play and it's been really good. But I just couldn't for the life of me work out why the centre-half just didn't say to Lewis for 10 minutes, just go big and we'll get someone closer to Andy Cook because it just kept playing into our hands.
It did keep playing into hands, and it's. I wonder though if more often than not throughout the whole season it's worked for Bradford, and they found ways to fight through when it hasn't been working for them. So maybe this is one of those rare occasions where they couldn't actually get their short passing and building from the back to actually work for them. So, you know, I can understand that maybe there's a delay in the change of approach, but also I can understand why Bradford. I watched a few Bradford stadium vlogs, and every time they lost the ball at the back and the Dieng goal, the amount of moaning that they don't. A lot of the Bradfords are struggling with this brand of football. It seemed that anyway. But because I can see the risk is a huge risk reward style of football, isn't it? It's a massive risk reward because it does draw players in, as we were seeing yesterday. It drew a lot of the Gills players in, Nichols and Lapsley coming in close, and even Dieng. And then if you manage to break that first line, then you've got the whole pitch in front of you to create something, and you're outnumbering. But it only takes one mistake, and then your confidence drops. And then that can kind of perpetuate even further down and down. And then that's when you need to change the style. But Bradford didn't do that yesterday, which, as you've alluded to, was quite surprising. I think that changed, obviously, in the second half. But
yeah, it certainly did. And we'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, of course.
But it was a surprise that they kept plugging away at this style of football because it didn't seem to be working for them. And we were I was gutted we didn't take more to get another goal out of it, actually. We were close, but we didn't. And that was a shame.
We were nearly pegged back a few minutes after that. I think they finally got the ball into our third and had a corner, and I think it was Sam Stubbs, the centre half, who sort of ran onto it, and I think it sort of hit him on the shoulder or the side of his head. He's not really known where it's hit him, and it drifted over the bar harmlessly for a goal kick. But it was just a warning that Bradford was still here, and Bradford are a good side, and all the time that it's only one, you only need one error or one moment of magic for them, and suddenly you're pegged back, and it becomes a very different football match. But again, it was us back on the front foot straight away, and we forced yet another corner. Alex McDonald nearly scores direct from it, doesn't he?
He does,
I think that's going in. Lewis sort of comes and gets stuck under it and has to back pedals to get nowhere near there. And I think his defender helps him out.
Yeah, it was a good ball. It's quite funny because when that ball came in, he's been trying to get it. He tries to go a back post quite a lot, then get something across. But for this one, he hit that corner with some real venom. And I think he would only know this, but I'm pretty sure that was intended for the back of the net. I'm pretty sure he just either was going for a shot on target from the corner, or just went, I'm going to hit as hard as I can and drop it right on the 6-yard box. And it just so happens that this was heading in the back of the net. I think it was Stubbs actually, or Chichlo. I can't remember who managed to clear off the line, but that was definitely going in, absolutely. And Lewis was in no man's land. Yeah.
There was another chance. I don't think I've ever spoken about Gills creating as many chances in one half of football all season. Just on a side note, you said Newcastle were winning 3-0.
Yeah.
It's 5-0 now.
You're joking me. Is it 5-0?
27 minutes have been played at St James's Park, and it's Newcastle United 5, Tottenham Hotspur 0.
There's still time, might get back.
Can you sack an interim manager? Anyway, I digress. Harry Kane has to leave. Welcome to Gills in the Blood Premier League show.
So you rebranding your channel, Matt? That's what this looks like.
Not absolutely not too much VAR for my liking. You know that, Rhys.
I agree with that as well.
There was another half chance before half time. Dom Jeffries done really well. Escaped down the left and drove like we've seen him do since the takeover and the new group of players, and played a good ball to Tom Nichols. His shot was blocked, and I think Shea Alexander blazed one over. I keep looking at my notes thinking I've written down, then the game calmed down, but it really didn't.
No.
We had 15, 20 minutes, then they had 5 minutes, then we had all the play again. They had the corner from Stubbs that nearly went over, the header, sorry, and then we got back on the front foot. Was the only disappointment from a Gillingham point of view when the half-time whistle went that we probably should have been 2 or 3-0 up?
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite funny because I was going to mention this at the end, but I think it's probably good to mention it now. This might be quite unpopular, especially for some Bradford fans. I think 2-2 was just about right. And the reason I think that is because in the first half, we probably should have scored 2 goals, but scored 1. But then we made up for it, obviously, right at the end of the match by snatching a late equaliser. When probably, we'll talk about that like 5 minutes at the end of the game where we're all over them. But actually, on the base of play, based on how many opportunities we had in the first half, I think 2-2 is probably just about right. I'm going to put my head out on that, put my neck out on that one. But I've
written down at full time, I've written down draw fair question mark. And that was a question I was going to ask you. Yeah, I think it probably was. I think we had the better chances. The weird thing was they had more possession first half. I think if you look at the stats, they had about 70%, but I'd imagine 60% of that was between their goalkeeper and their centre halves.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Whereas second half, certainly after the equaliser, we knew then if we wanted to win the game, we had to be more open. So then they had less ball because we were trying to attack, but also they had it in more dangerous areas higher up the pitch. But
absolutely.
Half time, Neil Harris must have been massively pleased with what he'd seen, because I've put the tweet out about January to February was beating the teams in and around us, and we said that before, and we did that. February to March was about beating the mid-table sides. We started doing that, the Tranmeres, the Wimbledons, the Grimsbys, that type of thing. Then it was about trying to get points off the teams at the top of the table. And I said that over the last 6 weeks, we've played Stockport twice, we've been to Northampton, home to Carlisle and Orient, and we've been to Bradford, and we've only lost once. So we're starting to see signs of that as well. But imagine, despite the slight disappointment that we weren't further in front, we'd have probably said, quieten the crowd for 15 minutes.
Yep.
And unfortunately, the very opposite happened. Within 2 minutes, Bradford are level, 20,000 are up. And I thought it was a good goal. I mean, we can sit and nitpick. We can say Timothee Dieng turns possession over too early on the halfway line.
Yep.
Yes. We can probably say that we can do more to stop the cross. Yes. But I think from there, Andy Cook is the best number 9 in the division by a mile this season.
He is.
He's up to, I think, 30 goals in all competitions. He was clever because first half, it looked like Conor Masterson was tasked with following Andy Cook. So him and Maxima kept swapping sides to determine where Andy Cook was.
Right.
Andy Cook, if you watch the goal, peels off the back of him and latches onto Robbie McKenzie. And from there, it becomes something of a mismatch. number one, Cook's got to run, and he's running towards our goal. Mackenzie's having to backpedal, which makes it harder to get off the floor. I'm going to ask you a question because I've watched the clip of your video, and you said live on commentary, Glenn Morris should do better. And I went, oh, that's a big shout. I thought Cook headed it brilliantly into the floor. And that looks to me, it looks like it's hit the side net. And I thought you was being very harsh on Glenn Morris. And I'm usually the one that's harsh on goalkeepers.
Yeah, I still, I don't know, the way I saw it, and I might need to triple check this again because I've watched it a few times, and even so, I'm kind of like, it is. If any header is going to go right on the side of the goal, it looks, what it looks like to me initially is it looked like Morris and it hit his hand and the post at the same time. It looked like that to begin with, and then it just squirmed in. On reflection, I think it was just such a pinpoint header that it just crept in a really tiny gap on the right hand side of the goal. I don't know. It's a great header. Don't get me wrong.
I thought you and Fisher were the founders of the goalkeepers union. That's why that made me ask. When I read it, I saw it. I was like, oh, Rhys is having a pop at the goalie.
Maybe, I don't know. There's a part of me that does still say, I wonder if Glenn will look back at it and go, I might have done a little bit better. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it is harsh to me, but I thought he could do better.
I think my point would be if that hits Andy Cook on the head and flies into that top corner, we're saying brilliant header. But because it skipped in off the turf, I think then it creates the doubt. But for me, it's because it skipped down.
That does make it harder.
Side and in the roof of the net. I think Glenn Morris has got a lot to do to get up there. Like I say, there's phases of play that we can do better. Timothee Dieng can take more care of it to start with, and we can probably get out to the cross a bit quicker. But Andy Cook's going to make a mug of better defences and has done all season long. And we're a decent defence at this level. That's never been the problem all season long. From there, it was about digging in, wasn't it? Because, like we said, Valley Parade was bouncing, baying for blood, proverbially speaking, not literally. I think. Yeah, I've written down how would we react. There was another massive chance straight after, I think, for Bradford. I think it was Neves got it to Walker and he drilled one just wide.
Yeah.
The game was being played in our third of the pitch, I've written. And I just thought for 10 minutes or so, everything became very ragged.
Yes.
Not ragged, that's probably the wrong word. Everything became stretched because you've got to give credit to Bradford. And everything became a little bit last ditch. We did it. I get that. That was brilliant. I think there was one block from Robbie Mackenzie at some point. But yeah, it just looked like for 10 minutes we might cave. So credit to us, we didn't.
No, we weathered the storm. And, you know, we need to remember, playing at Valley Pro, you've got, if you're defending that side of the goal, you're defending that half, and you've got 3 stands around you, all Bradford City fans, trying to shout the ball into the goal. It's a fierce atmosphere to play, and especially when they've just got back on level terms really quickly. It's gonna get all the Bradford players up to get a winning goal or go ahead. So considering all that, we weathered the storm pretty well. That 10 minutes that you're talking about, it was last ditch defending, but we managed to get through those periods of play when Bradford were really on top. Which, you know, that runs true for our whole season. We have been solid defensively. It's never been a concern. Actually, to concede 2 goals yesterday was, you know, it's a bit of a surprise. Actually, I can't, you know, we don't often concede 2 goals in a game. We haven't for it. It feels like a long time since we last
on the road. I think we do. I think that's
maybe on the road we do. Yes,
I think that's 4 in a row on the road. To be
is it 4 in a row? Okay, fair enough.
Bradford 2-2.
Oh, in Northampton
2-1. Barrow 2-1. Walsall 2-0. But the trouble was with us when we conceded 1 before Christmas, that was game over. Whereas now, if we concede 2, we think we can still get back into games and create chances and score goals. But it took a while, I thought, in that second half. I think it was the 63rd minute by the time it felt like we got into their half. But Robbie Mackenzie done really well and nearly put us back in front. Drove out of the left back area. The thing with Robbie playing that side, and we've said it before, is you know that he's going to have a tendency to drift onto his right foot. So he's always coming into traffic towards players. But he played a wonderful 1-2 with Tom Nichols, I think it was, and got the return ball. And I think he was just off balance. Defender done enough leaning onto him. But he got his shot away, Robbie, and Lewis had to stand up and make a decent save to put it out for a corner. And that was when I just thought, we're all right here. We're back in the game. We've settled. We've seen out our storm. And now we've got 25 minutes to just calm the game down and take the sting out of it a little bit. I can't remember when the changes came, to be honest. I don't think they was for a little bit later, was they? Around 60.
No, so there were six. So they had for Bradford, Emmanuel DB came on at 62 minutes, I think it was.
So yeah, just before that chance. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. Yeah, so he came on and he changed the face of the game a little bit. That was another threat that we had to be aware of. But just quickly about that attempt from Mackenzie, it was a good little link-up play of Nichols, and I think, do you know what I think? It's a weird. When he did that in my head, when he made that shot, I went, in training he scores that. I'm certain. It's one of those in training that you score. But it's just, like you said, slightly off balance, a bit under pressure.
Yeah,
that's all it needs. That's all it needs to be for that to happen, to make it an easy save for the goalkeeper. But yeah, Bradford made their first change, 62nd minute, I think, for Nevers coming off, and Osadibe came on, and yeah, I think, but then I think that's when Bradford started to get back into the game again.
That was when I thought it started to just become a little bit basketball. It became very end to end, and I think they went straight up the other end after the Mackenzie chance, and it was another good bit of link up play. I think it was Scott Banks, Andy Cook, and it fell to, I think it was Richie Smallwood, edge of the box, and I think there was a block that might have been the Mackenzie block where he got out to it and saw it out for a corner. Then Osadibe got into the game as well. We had him as a kid. He was nothing more than that with potential. You know, we're going back 7, 8 years now. Blimey, O'Reilly. I think it was 2015 we signed him, didn't we?
Yeah.
But obviously we know he's had a horrendous injury start of this season, so it's good to see him back from that point of view, because no one wants to see players getting injured. I think he done well down the left-hand side, didn't he?
Yes.
And I think the ball then came back. I think that might have been the Smallwood chance, actually, that Mackenzie... Yes, the first one was a Banks effort that was saved by Glenn Morris, flung up a hand.
Yeah, he flung up a hand. Yeah, that was a good save. I'll give him that one.
I think it's a save that Glenn Morris makes, because it's not miles away from him and it's at a good height. I think you'd be disappointed if that ends up in the roof of the net more than the header.
I think what makes that tricky for Morris, in my opinion, is the speed at which Banks hits that. Not necessarily like he hits it with pace, he hits it with power, but it's kind of like as my old man would always used to say, Thierry Henry would always shoot earlier.
That's it. He goes first time. He doesn't have a chance, so Glenn can't set himself. So that makes it a good save. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and then the second one was the Smallwood block, Mackenzie. That was it. I was getting the two muddled up. So again, we were still doing everything that we needed to. We were chucking our bodies in the way to keep ourselves level. That's when we made our change, wasn't it? And I think it's fair to say that a lot of people have said about Neil Harris over, the last few months and the season as a whole, that the substitutions are a little bit predictable. It seems to be that when they was all fit, if we played two wingers, the two wingers would come off and we bring two more wingers on. We've had to change that because Ollie Hawkins has not started the last 3 hour matches. I thought it was a brave change. We moved Jules Lapsley to the side. We withdrew Alex McDonald, who I thought had run himself to an absolute standstill again. And we chucked Ollie Hawkins on. So it's not like we were sitting back. I could understand Hawkins coming on because he can come defend set plays that way. But it also gave us a focal point because we weren't keeping the ball as well as we had in the first half. But it was still, to be going 4-4-2 for the last 25 minutes away at Valley Parade, I thought showed a bit of balls from Neil Harris and the coaching team.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was a positive change, and eventually it turned out to be a very positive afternoon as a result. But it was, I'd say the substitutions to a certain extent were becoming quite predictable. So to have that change of shape up front, to go to that 4-4-2 formation, to then to try and build on that, and and ultimately, as there's a goal for Bradford before that, but ultimately the substitute that came on got the goal as well. But absolutely, it was a positive change, and you could see how much of an impact that was already having, because the end-to-end kind of feel was still continuing throughout the game. But we were competitive even after the change. We didn't sit back. We didn't become stagnant or anything like that. We were still relatively competitive throughout, which is really good to see.
Question for you. When it first happened, it looked to me like we was just staying 4-4-2. So George had gone to the right and Dom was on the left, and it was a flat four, two banks of four to defend, and then we try and get high up the pitch to support the front two. But it looked like Neil then tweaked it again. It looked like he went to a diamond and went a bit narrow, or at least like a 4-3-1-2, because it looked like George then went central again and played behind the front two. And I thought Dom and Timothee Dieng got really, really narrow. So that gave Bradford another type of problem. Again, it's flexible, isn't it? If you can be compact out of possession and then you can get two to spring wide, obviously it gives you extra strings to your proverbial bow and arrow. But I thought we quietened the game down well again. And so we're approaching sort of the last 10, 15 minutes now, and you hear it on commentary. this is a good point for Gills. Of course it is. This is a team that's gunning for the top 7. I think automatic promotion was beyond them because of their defeat in the week, but they're still a good side. I thought the game was then being played in front of us, which we're more comfortable with.
Yeah.
Because of the centre halves that we've got can go and attack it aerially, and we've got 2 fullbacks that are solid and want to chuck their bodies in the way. And obviously we've got a very good goalkeeper behind them, sweeping up if we need to. Then we gave away a penalty.
Yeah, we did.
It's an absolute stonewaller.
Oh, stonewall! You can't hide from that fact. And it's McKenzie who made the tackle. Just comes in wrong side of the player, a bit late. It's always going to be a foul. But it's just one of those things. Marston heads the ball away out, doesn't he? And then it goes back in, and that's when McKenzie makes the foul. Look, it's one of those fouls that happens during the game. Unfortunately, McKenzie he had quite an eventful game. Actually, he had a lot going on. And unfortunately for him, he was at the wrong end of a tackle, and it led to penalty. When the penalty was given, I just thought there was that part where I went, maybe this is Bradford's day. Maybe it's their day. It's kind of worked for them, and we've thrown everything at it. And actually, I kind of conceded the fact that Cook was going to put it in the back of the net, and then boom, that would probably be it. And we'd be talking about how we were close to getting a point, but it was just one foul that just let the team down, maybe. But obviously, it didn't turn out that way. Luckily for us, but it did feel at the time. It was like, I
know what you mean. It was like the air got sucked out of the away support, and we was all like watching it on iFollow, and it just looked like a tired tackle for me. It's Robbie McKenzie. He's had to dig in for 82 minutes.
Yeah, of course.
We're into game 44 of 46 in the league. You chuck on top of the cup games and that as well, and considering how poor we were before Christmas, it's going to happen. Tired bodies equals tired minds, and then you make rash decisions. Just gets blindsided, doesn't he, by Scott Banks, and has a swing and boots him over. Yeah. And Andy Cook's not missed much this season, and I don't think there was ever going to be any other outcome. Quickly made changes again. We got proactive on the bench. Mm-hmm. Robbie McKenzie was actually one of them who was withdrawn, and David Tatonda, who's back in the squad, came on for the last, what turned out to be about 16, 17 minutes, and we'll get to injury time in a minute. And Ethan Coleman was withdrawn. And we saw our first glimpse of Jaden Clark in a competitive league fixture. And I want to talk about him at the end as well. And I've done something slightly different with the match ratings today.
Oh, God. He hasn't told me what he's doing, so I'm going in blind.
Oh, no, nothing. I've rated people, but I generally don't rate people that come on after 80 minutes. But considering
fair enough.
the amount of injury time and the impact I thought they both had. So it looked like Timothee Dieng then became the narrow one. This is where I think we went to a free. It looked like it was just Timmy, George and Dom. And then it looked like Jaden Clark just had a free roll in front and said, right, they're not going to know anything about you. If we get the ball, let's try and create some problems. There was a chance straight after that. And I don't know if it got picked up by you or by anyone else, but because he'd come on, I was looking a little bit closer at Jaden Clark, almost like, talking about Premier League in the old Sky Sports player cam. I just wanted to concentrate on Jaden Clark. The chance eventually falls to Tom Nichols. I think Ollie Hawkins flicks it on and Nichols drives 20 yards. It's a good save from Harry Lewis. But if you just rewind it back, there's a really good touch first time from Jaden Clark that gets us on our way. I think he gives it to Jeffries, it might be. Just a one touch around the corner. Jeffries gets his head up and looks for Hawkins, who manages to bring it in and then get Tom Nichols on his bike. I thought it was a really, really good save, but there was a bigger one a couple of minutes later. And again, Jaden Clark's involved. Picks the ball up on the left-hand side, shows really good feet to release David Tatonda. We know about David Tatonda. He goes from the sublime to the ridiculous in the blink of an eye. Delivery is absolutely spot on. It's between the centre halves. I thought it was a really good save from the keeper.
Yeah, it is a good save.
The team on Radio Kent was saying that Tom Nichols probably should have done better. I thought, again, he's headed it into the floor, same as Andy Cook. Andy Cook's has just nestled in the top corner. But it was great to see us just get back on the front foot, keep playing the same way, keep trusting each other's ability, rather than just to go, we've got to knock it long to Hawkins straight away now, because we're into the last 10 minutes, so that's what we have to do, because that's historically how games go. We got to win some really good areas. And then the board went up. And I think everyone was a bit shocked.
Yeah. Do you know what I think happened? I wonder if the referee had a digital watch. He had a quick look at it. It said 6 instead of 8, and he misread it as 8 or something like that. It was. I was trying to guess how many injury time minutes there would be, I was maxing out at about 5.
I think that was the general consensus. There was 2 goals, so you say 30 seconds for each celebration. That's a minute, and there was probably what? How many changes did we make? We made 3, so that gets you to 2.5 minutes, 30 seconds a sub.
Yeah,
And they made 4.
maybe 4, and then you've also got
then general stoppages.
The penalty probably took a little bit more time,
so
maybe
5, 6 at a push.
Yeah, that was I was at 5, including the penalty, and but
it came up 8.
Yeah, for once, Matt, the added time debacle Gillingham always at the end of it gone in our favour for once. Yeah. Flashbacks to Man City all that time ago, you know.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. So the reverse of Mark Halsey, bless him.
Yeah.
We still created more chances. I think there was a period where David Tatonda got the ball on the halfway line, and instead of just doing the diagonal, which we've already mentioned, he saw Shea Alexander wide right and pinged a really good ball with the outside of his left foot across the halfway line. And Shea got on his bike, I think, and stood a ball up to the far post, and Tom Nichols had just peeled off his man. And it's great technically, the volley, but it's straight at Harry Lewis from a tight angle. But you're just thinking, we're still in this. If we can just get, I don't know, one set play or one proper delivery into the middle of the 6-yard box. And then it was David Tatonda again. Like, he had a real impact on us as an attacking sense in the final 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 18 minutes, whatever it was in the end.
It was.
Because generally you bring defenders on to see out games if you're in front. But obviously Mackenzie must have been tired. So we've said, right, come on, Dave, go and see what you can do. And I like it because it gives us natural balance, because you can get your players on the outside. Like we said about Mackenzie hundreds of times, he has to step in a lot of the time. Disco Dave, as we like to call him, he loves a step over. I think there was about 3 or 4. He didn't actually go anywhere, but then I think he tried to accelerate past the defender, and the cross got blocked. And we got set play as the clock ticked over to 97 minutes.
Yes. For what it's worth, the build up to that, I have to say to you, Tatonda had such a weirdly positive impact moving forward. It was quite weird because we hadn't seen him for a while, and it was almost like having a new player in a really weird sense of the phrase. It was just a bit odd.
Yeah, he was back on the bench Tuesday, wasn't he? But he didn't get on, I don't think. And yeah, it seems it's got to be a good month or so since we've seen him in action. Shea Alexander took the corner.
Decent corner, by the way.
It was flat, quick, to the back post. I think Harry Lewis flaps a little bit.
Yep.
Might get something on it. Try to claim a foul.
Nah.
How much does Ollie Hawkins know about that? To me, it just looked like he swung a leg at it and it ended up in the bottom corner, which is, I get that, it's brilliant, because that's what you want your big centre forward to do, to be alive to situations, to almost preempt that the keeper's not going to come and claim it. But he looked like he went with the wrong leg. It's like he went with the outside of his right leg across his left leg.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care, Ollie, it worked.
It's like it's almost like he shinned it in. It was one of those really weird ones.
Yeah, it weren't the technically the greatest finish, but I don't think any Gillingham fan cared. And for me, we were good value for that point. And you said that at the top of the show. I thought, based on the 2 halves, if we'd come away empty-handed, that'd have been really, really harsh.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And it was I keep referring back to games we played previously. And again, it reminded me of when Max Emer scored the winning goal at Shrewsbury, I think in 2015. Last minute, we had Emmanuel Thomas score a rocket for us to equalise. And the 95th
when we were 2-0 down,
Yeah, and it was a similar-ish goal. It came from a corner. I think Barry Fuller put it in, but this time it was Alexander put it in. Went to the sort of back post 6-yard box, and he just Max Emer, when he did it, had control in the volley. I think for Hawkins this time, it was in the right place at the right time, preempted Lewis missing it, and he kicked it in. I mean, it's obvious to say it like that. But
similar to his goal at Rochdale, I thought. Just peeled off the back post. This time he went with his right foot, but just almost swung something at it, and any sort of contact ends up getting it in, which is what you want from your centre forward.
Absolutely, and it broke Bradford City hearts. I could feel that through iFollow. It really did.
You just see that again, similar to when we conceded the penalty, but on a grander scale, it just went.
Yeah,
like someone to put a pin in their balloon type thing.
Yeah.
I've written down draw fair. We've already discussed that. We could have been potentially out of sight at the break. They've got Andy Cook. They was always going to come on a strong second period, which they did. We had to weather a couple of storms at least. But I've written down, we didn't always make the right decisions. Timothee Dieng doesn't make the right decisions for the first. Do we get out the cross probably slow? Yes, a little bit. Do we make the right decision for the penalty? No, it's a tired swing of a leg.
Yeah.
By God, this team's got some brilliant resilience about it now, though, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I think if you, in contrast to the doom of the first half of the season, when going 1-0 down in the first minute means mean we're going to lose, like, you know, if we go down 2 goals, you know what? If we're going to have 3 goals in the first half, there's still a part of me that goes, you know what? We could probably get back into this in a way. But just to have that thought is something that is great to have this side of the season now and moving forward, because that resilience has really been built up. And I think resilience and confidence go hand in hand. And that's what's happened over this period of the season, is that's been building up over time. And as a result, we can dig out games and snatch points when we think we deserve them, or even when we don't deserve them. We can probably snatch something here and there. And that is that's a winning mentality to have, especially moving on to next season.
Oh, yeah. And Alex Ferguson used to say, for years and years when he was at Man United, the sign of a good team is winning when you're not at your best, or getting points when you're not at your best. And I think,
yep,
maybe we were at our best Saturday. Maybe that is our best. But 2-1 down with going into injury time, you've got to dig in and you've got to show something about you, and you've got to show some cojones. And I thought we did it in abundance, and we thoroughly deserved our point.
And it's just reminded me, I remember you tweeting once a while ago that you would say Gillingham on the tweets, they put up there's 5 minutes of injury time, and then they tweet again, oh, it's full time. I used to be really, really frustrated by that.
I thought that was going to be another one. To be fair, I thought that was going to happen again Saturday.
But what it shows, actually, the resilience we've built up is that actually when the 8 minutes, as it were, went up, look what all happened in that 8 minutes. There was a lot that happened. So we do have the nous, we do have the grit, we have the resilience to go out and try and dig something out. So the admin of the Gillingham media team can actually tweet some stuff in injury time.
Because I thought, for what I saw in the final 8 minutes, I didn't think Gills admin tweeted a lot, because I was watching the game on Twitter live. I didn't think there was much came out from injury time to the goal. But watching the actual game, I thought there was plenty going on. Maybe they just couldn't type quick enough because there was too much happening.
Possibly.
If you're a Spurs fan and you're looking for a positive, it's half time and you've not conceded again. Anyway, best bantam on the day. There was a couple that I thought done all right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, first half, it was tricky to pick anyone because I thought they were bang average.
Yeah.
I think they took Neves off quite early and made a change second half. And that was for Osadebe, wasn't it?
Yes.
I thought Banks had moments. But again, similar to Robbie, you knew he was going to come in on his left foot. The odd occasion he actually went to the byline, he caused us a problem, but he became a bit predictable. For me, you can't get away from Andy Cook. Like, without Andy Cook, I've written down here, Andy Cook, without him, where are Bradford this season? Probably mid-table.
Yeah, that's a fair shout. I mean, it's obviously you select Andy Cook, absolutely the best player on that pitch. So I've kind of taken that approach of, obviously he's the one at the top, but I want to give a shout out to. I thought Banks did great. I thought he won the penalty and he was pretty lethal. He was making a lot happen. I think he became predictable as the game went on, but was still causing a lot of issues. And the other point I wanted to highlight was Rydalg. I thought was pretty tidy on the left hand side. He was up. He defended pretty well and was coming forward and creating a lot of opportunities, getting the ball in the box a lot for Bradford and causing a lot of problems for us. So I thought on the left hand side, Bradford were relatively strong actually, and Rydalg had a lot to do with that, and I was very impressed with him. Had on the other side as well, in the similar sense, but I just thought Rydalg was a little bit more had much more precision with his play moving forward, and it was quite good to see from him from that side. It made our job much more difficult, particularly in that second half.
Yeah, they've got good players. That's why they're
exactly.
That's why they're in the playoffs. At the end of the day, they've got a big squad and they've got a good squad. So we're agreed Andy Cook was the best player, but some honourable mentions. I think that's great. So we'll look at Andy Cook's stats. I wrote down, he had one meaningful touch first half, and it was cleared off the line. Apart from that, I didn't think he was in the game. So I thought, kudos to us. We managed him really well first period. I didn't think he was in the game a lot second half, but his movement for the level up is really good. He only needs one chance to score. He tucked the penalty away with aplomb.
Yep.
We've already said, where would they be without his goals this season? 90 minutes played, 2 goals, 3 shots on target, 89% passing.
It's pretty good, isn't it?
I've just put, he wasn't in it for long periods, but when he was massively influential. And that's what you want from your number 9.
Exactly. Small moments of play, but they're big moments of play.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, small moments in terms of time, but massive
Yep.
moments in terms of end product and that type of
Yep.
thing. And these massive moments have occurred over 30 times this season. So fair play
Absolutely.
to Andy Cook. And he's an
Yeah.
absolute bastard to play against as well, isn't
Absolutely. When he scored, he scored what was probably one of my favourite goals to concede against when we were there at Priestfield. That really depossessed Max Amer and did that whatever it was, and a massive run on the left hand side and
Put Masterson on his arse as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then tucked up Glenn Morris by putting him on his backside and clipping it over. It was a really, really good goal.
It's a lovely goal. It was a nice goal. Yeah. So yeah, he's a pretty good player.
Yeah, he's decent. He's all right, and he's keeping a certain Verdane Oliver out the side all season as well. And we know about all of Verdane's strengths and the prowess he has in the 18-yard box. Let's do Gills man of the match before we do the ratings, because obviously the ratings might give it away.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say I thought Timothee Dieng was very good on the day. And we mentioned him last week, didn't we, in the draw with Stockport, that we thought he was somewhere near his best again. Second goal for the club, a very different type of goal to the one we saw him score at Swindon. I don't think 30-yard runs and smashing one in the bottom corner is what Timmy's renowned for. I think he's more of a arrive late in the box type player to get on the end of things that way. I thought, obviously, it was going to be slightly different for him playing with someone that wasn't Sean Williams, essentially, because you've got to learn how each other plays, whereas him and Willow have played for a while together now. So you've got to learn where Ethan Coleman runs, when Tim Dieng needs to run. But he wasn't my man of the match for Gills.
Okay, interesting. Because you want
to
let
you go. You go with yours. I've written mine down.
Well, basically, what you've just said is the reason why I gave him my man of the match.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
I went Connor Masterson.
Oh, he was my second choice.
Thought he was absolutely immense. I thought first half he was comfortable. He followed Cook about. Cook wasn't in the game. Him and Max swept everything up.
Yeah.
But the trick then is to do it second half when we came under the cosh a lot more. And I thought Connor Masterson, I'm not saying no one else stood up to it, but I thought Connor Masterson was the one that stood up to it most noticeably. And he did that thing as well. When we was under the cosh, he was brave enough to step out with it to try and create an overload in midfield, which meant we could gamble and get people higher up the pitch. I thought he was brilliant. And Brad, if you're watching, do everything you can to get the lad to sign on the dotted line on a permanent basis, because he is going to be one hell of a centre half. He already is one hell of a centre half, but he's going to keep getting better.
Absolutely, I can't echo that enough. We want him permanently in our squad for next season, because he's become the spine of this second half of the season, and he's an absolute. He complements Max Amer really well, also. And one thing I like about Masterson, he's not afraid to move forward and to try and initiate an attack as well, which I really like in a centre half, is to have that movement forward as well. Be confident on the ball at your feet, and he ticks all those boxes for me. But yeah, I really, really hope that he signs for us permanently for the start of next season. What an asset that would be.
And it's all about relationships again, isn't it? And like you say, continue to build them going into next season. If we make loads of changes, then relationships just break down a little bit. We're starting to see the spine of a very good side. If we can get Glenn Morris back in, I'll be absolutely over the moon. If we can get Max and Connor Masterson as a first choice pairing, I'll be absolutely over the moon. Timmy and Sean plus Ethan Coleman gives us, I think, solidity in the middle of the park.
Yep.
We're seeing George Lapsley playing his favoured role and excel now. Tom Nichols has been brilliant. Ollie Hawkins can play there. You know my views on what we need. I'm not going to say it again. I will do a transfer special later on in the coming months when the season's finished. But yeah, Connor, 90 minutes, 4 clearances, 1 block, 2 tackles, wasn't dribbled past once. Neither was anyone in the back four. So fair play to everyone. 56% passing, which was about what we were, to be fair, as a whole. And he won 57% of his duels, 100% on the floor as well. So
fair enough.
He was in a battle against Andy Cook, and we knew that. And he was probably under the Coshmore second period. But yeah, we've said it loads over recent weeks and over the last 3 months, Rhys. We never seem to have someone that runs away with man of the match. It's always, whenever we win or we take good points off of good sides, there's probably 2 or 3 that are really in contention, and everyone else plays their part as well. We always have good team performances. You go back a few years where we had a Bradley Dack who'd win a game on your own or something like that, or a Cody McDonald or a Tom Eaves, dare I say it. Whereas now, it just feels like a proper team.
And that's really important, because you could either have one player and you build a team around them, or you can have a whole team, a whole squad that complement each other. And that's what I think we're building. And one of the things, actually, which is why I also ranked Dieng slightly above Conor Marsden, only by a minuscule, was I thought with Williams not being there and having Coleman there, Dieng had to, be dynamic in his approach. He's got someone younger, he's got someone learning the game, and he's still having to then be competitive in the match as well. And I thought playing that role was an important part of the game as well. And I think him being that dynamic to be able to not only get a goal, but also to be able to play with a newer personnel who's still learning the game next to him, I thought that was a really good sign of leadership from Dieng, which is something we were missing at the first half of the season. And it's nice that we have that now to be able to use that asset in our midfield.
Oh, absolutely. And also, I'm not sitting here saying that we don't need Stardust, and I don't want us to go and get, a marquee signing. We still need that to get ourselves into the top portion of the stadium. But it's just, I think it's really good when everyone's contributing. And obviously you get people that stand out slightly more than everyone else. But again, it's another performance where I didn't think anyone was below a 7.
No, and I think that's fair enough. Yeah, I think our ratings are probably going to be quite similar, and it's pretty most the same throughout the whole team, because I thought it was a solid squad and team performance all the way through.
Let's have a look then. Glenn Morris, definitely not at fault for the first. 7 out of 10.
I gave him 7 as well.
I thought he makes the save, the one from Banks that you'd expect him to make. Again, he come and claim crosses. Generally, I think his distribution was absolutely fine. You know what you get with Glenn, who has just been announced as Gills in the Blood TV Player of the Season. So congratulations to the cat, the goat. Thank you to everyone that voted. Hopefully I'll be able to catch up with him at the Player of the Year in a few days' time. Anyway, off on a tangent. Back 4, Shea Alexander and Robbie McKenzie. I gave both 7s, the fullbacks. I thought they were absolutely solid. I don't think we saw loads of them in an attacking sense. When they got their chance, they had their moments, like Robbie for his chance. Shea got a couple of good balls into the box. Obviously, the corner's a set play, so it's not attacking per se. He's gone over and taken a corner. But yeah, they've not let us down for weeks and months now. They've both become an integral part of that back 4 that's got us, to where we are. It's incredible to think that January the 14th, we were 6 points from 22nd. We sit here with 2 games to play and we're 5 points off the top half. That wouldn't even come into a conversation 3 months ago, to be 5 points off the top half. No,
that's mad. Actually, I keep looking at where we were after the Stevenage game. I think it was when we lost 1-0. I often look at the table at that point and go, wow.
Yeah, that was the last one before the likes of Nico and that could play, wasn't it? Yeah, because then we had the FA Cup game, and then Hartlepool was when it all sort of started turning around.
Yeah. Absolutely, the turnaround has been incredible. But just to quickly give the ratings for mine for Alexander McKenzie, I gave McKenzie a 7. I actually gave Alexander a 7.5 because I thought the assist was worth the 0.5 at the end.
No qualms about that at all. No qualms about that at all. Centre backs, I went Max 7.5, and I went Conor Masterson 8.
Okay, I went 7.5 for Max, 8 for Masterson. Yeah,
exactly the same. Look at this.
Yeah.
2 sitting midfielders. Obviously, we've spoken about Timothee Dieng already, and I thought he was very good. And you said about giving him a minuscule higher rating than Conor Masterson. I didn't. I gave him an 8 as well. I thought he was as good as Conor Masterson. I just thought that was with the goal, whereas Conor Masterson's came without the goal. So 8 for Timmy. Again, back to his best, I think. Energetic, up and down, protected the back 4, got on when he could. Ethan Coleman, solid 7. Didn't do a lot wrong. Had to play with a booking for, I think, about 10 minutes or so second half before he was withdrawn as we chased an equaliser. But yeah, another promising hour, 70 minutes from Ethan Coleman. I thought he was decent again.
Yeah, we're gonna fall victim of almost the same ratings here. I would have given Dieng is 8 and a tiny bit more. Is 8.1? Could I give him that?
Of course you can. Do what you like. It's fine.
8.1
for the end of the season.
Yeah, fair enough. And for Coleman was a 7 as well. Do you know what? I was really, really impressed with Coleman. It's really nice to have a fresh impetus in the team. Someone that's going to grow into a squad. Hopefully, we haven't had that for such a long time.
It is, and it will take pressure off Sean Williams if Sean Williams signs on the dotted line, because he's not getting any younger. He'll be 37, I think, by the time the new season starts. But I think it's imperative that we keep Willow at the club just for training ground experience. And
Mm.
we'll be able to rest and rotate now if we trust Ethan Coleman. And again, Ethan Coleman's being brave. That's 2 games in a row he could have scored. It's taken good blocks to stop him smashing one in from the edge of the box. In terms of the wide players, where did we get to? We've done Ethan Coleman. We'll go from right to left in that 3 between the protectors and the centre forward. Yep. Alex McDonald, I thought, was absolute first class against 7.5. Ran himself to an absolute standstill. He was busy, getting about their back 4, putting them under pressure. His delivery was good from corners. On another day, he could have had a goal or an assist or both. George, the same, 7.5. I thought he picked up good pockets of space again. Could have pinched a goal first half. Dom, 7, solid again, but I thought the other 2 stood out slightly more.
Yeah, it's as if you're reading my mind on this one. It's pretty much the same. So McDonald was 7.5, Lap 7.5. I also gave Jeffrey 7.5 as well. I did the sweep through for those players. I thought Jeffrey's actually there were pockets of Jeffrey's play that I thought matched what Lapsley and McDonald were doing as well. And the fact that Jeffrey's played the full 90, I thought at that pace, I thought was really impressive. And and because I know McDonald came off because he was probably blowing. But yeah, I just thought Jeffrey's particularly 7.5 for me, it warranted that. I thought it was the same sort of approach as Lapsley and McDonald throughout that whole game as well. So for me, all 7.5s.
And also, we've got to remember this is Dom's first season as a professional, and he's played 40 odd games, and that's remarkable in itself. So fair play to Dom. He's been very, very good. And
you can really see with Dom why he got player of the season with Brentford B team.
Yeah, I think he's just the type. I know he looks like a Gillingham player, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Runs
he does.
Brick walls. He plays for the badge on the front of the shirt, and he'll put in a shift even if he's not playing well.
Yeah, absolutely, and you can definitely see that in it. And I'm sure that's going to grow even more as we go through next season as well. Hopefully,
fingers crossed. Yeah, because he's been very, very good. Tom Nichols, I thought, was brilliant again. He does a lot of work off the ball that gets us into good areas without even touching the football. I gave him a 7.5. He was busy. He was bright. He used it well enough when he had it. On another day, could have had hat-trick with a bit more luck.
It's a shame because actually it's funny because if he scores equaliser, then I'm debating whether he gets man of the match. So it's like I gave him a 7.75. I thought he was a strong contender at the front four. I thought he had a really strong game.
Let's get these ratings sorted out for next season. He's just doing what he wants. I said, wow, he's just taking a mick.
Yeah,
I know what you're saying. Yeah, it was. Yeah,
I'm just. It's just there was a bit more for me. It's a bit more than 7.5, but it wasn't an 8. It was somewhere in the middle, and there's the halfway point.
Absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. Substitutes. Ollie Hawkins, I didn't think was in the game a great deal, but with the goal, solid 7. And obviously, he's ultimately earned us a point, which is what you want your centre forwards to do, especially ones that are on the bench when they don't want to be. You want them to come on and have a positive impact, and there's no more positive impact than tucking one in the bottom corner with about 30 seconds play after an hour of injury time.
No, it must have felt good that as well, knowing you scored a very late equaliser. Absolutely. No, 7s are just about right, yeah, considering the time was on the pitch and the goal we had.
Now, this is where I've changed it up. If he's doing what he wants, I'm going to start doing what I want. We usually have the rule, if they come on after 75 minutes, they don't get a rating. But because of the such amount of injury time, I think both played 15 minutes. I'm going to talk about David Tatonda and I'm going to talk about Jayden Clark, but particularly Clark. David Tatonda I gave a 7 because I thought he was involved in absolutely everything in an attacking sense when we were trying to chase that leveller. And he's forced a corner where that leveller comes from. So didn't have any defending to do because I think Bradford was sitting in and settling and trying to see out the game. I want to talk about Jayden Clark because this is a kid that's come from Dulwich Hamlet and we signed someone else from Dulwich Hamlet in the summer and it's not worked out at all. And that was Jordan Green. So there's always a risk when you sign someone at that level. 21 years old. I think Neil's described him as very raw. He's got lots to do in terms of becoming a regular and he's got lots to do in terms of learning about how you play the game at a professional level without the football. But I thought what he did was he came on and he showed a real willingness to get involved because I'd imagine a lot of people would have gone, oh, you might hide a little bit. That's what I'm trying to say. You might not want to show for the ball. And we've already mentioned two moments that lead to chances. The first one, the little flick round the corner, which ends up with Tom Nichols forcing a good save from 20 yards. Also the good feet for the David Tatonda cross for Tom Nichols diving header. There was also another moment right at the end. I think it was still 2-1. It might have been 2-2. Don't hold me to that. Bradford left back's got the ball. Jaden Clark could probably go, right, you can clip that down the line and we'll let my right back deal with that. No, gets out there straight away. Thunderous block tackle, goes out for a throw. And I thought, oh, yeah, he's going to do all right. Gave him a 7. Thought he was brilliant.
Yeah, I can't argue with that, actually, because it's one of those things. When he came on the pitch, it took me about 15 seconds to clock who it was. It took me ages to work it out. I'd lost my concentration at that point. I think it was just before. I think when it came, I was 85th minute or something, and I was kind of expecting, Bradford to go on just to win the game. I didn't notice the substitute happen, actually, and then I saw Tutonda on. I was like, who's that? Oh, that's Jaden Clark. And then, but actually, as soon as I noticed it, I was like, oh my God, he's doing stuff. Like, he's like, and one of the things you just said already, he didn't shy away from anything. He was right.
Not at all.
He felt like he'd been playing for us for a season or two. Like it just clicked. It just worked. And he was fighting and he was battling. And maybe it's that thing. You get your real opportunity. You want to show what you can do in this period of time. But my God, he really, really did. Like he showed glimpses of something that, I'm hoping he's going to really grow into this team in the future. And I was just really impressed with those 10 minutes. Once I exactly worked out who it was, I was like, that's it. Yeah. And the tackle you're talking about, that block, I mean, ordinarily, I don't think many players really attempt to close that down at that late stage of the game. And
also bearing in mind that, no disrespect, it's not like we've gone to Sutton away and it's a small little non-league ground and there's 4,000, or Harrogate and there's 3,000 in there. He's come on in a game that we're losing and he's got to have a positive impact in front of 19,000 Bradford fans. Yep. Huge main stand, huge stand behind the goal. Noise would have been ridiculous. Nothing like he'd ever played in front of before. I don't think he flinched once. I thought he was really, really impressive. So yeah, fingers crossed that there's something there.
Yeah,
I don't think he'll play loads next season. I'm not saying that.
No.
Great if we can get this under 23 team into play and he can get lots of game time, and then we might see him in, I don't know, the Papa Johns and the Kent Cup games. But yeah, in terms of an initial assessment, I thought, yeah, he's got half a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really nice. And you mentioned about like building under 21s or under 23 squad, and it's nice that we can eventually hopefully build that option within the club itself, and we have two teams, the senior team and the under 21s. I think is it going to be, I don't know,
21s or 23s, something like that.
But to have players to have that structure in the club is going to be something. It's going to be such a huge accolade moving forward. Such a huge accolade, because you can pick up players from non-league like Dulwich Hamlet and say, right, we can put you in 20. Let's see if you develop to be a superstar or someone that can really play eventually at whatever standard we're at that point. Like, we have that option moving forward. We don't have that at the moment, and it's really nice that we're starting to build that foundation, because my God, the club is kind of screaming out for that now, which is
absolutely. And it's low risk for potentially high reward, isn't it? Because he's not going to be loads in terms of a wage or a contract, so we're not going to be paying ridiculous amounts to him on a weekly basis. He wants to come in and press, you'd imagine. He wants to earn a contract and earn his place in the 18, the 11 eventually. So in terms of what we can potentially achieve with him, the risk is very low to start with, and it's great to see. And like I say, it'd be nice if we can get a glimpse of him at home to Newport and him and Coleman again. And yeah, all in all, I thought it was a thoroughly entertaining game. I thought it was a very good fixture between two good honest sides that went hammer and tongs and both said, right, we're going to have a go. We're going to try and keep going right to the end. And we did that. We wish Bradford all the luck for the rest of the season in terms of getting into the playoffs, because we know all about them from our times in them a few times, and they're not fun to watch unless you're a neutral. Rhys, as always, it's been a real pleasure. It's been great fun. It's been nice to have this second half of the season. I think we've only got one more Monday review left together, because unfortunately the final game of the season is on a Monday and Rhys is working.
Yeah.
Because the laws are different in Germany.
So it is.
Be back Wednesday to preview Newport at home. So looking forward to that one. That is our final home game of the season. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing, retweeting, and doing everything that you do. You do it for myself. You do it for Rhys as well. Brilliant content as always. Videos are all in association with Art of Football. Link is in the description. Not telling you anything else. Enjoy your week. We'll see you Saturday. But until then, up the Gills.